that I just do the bare minimum to build something in Zelda right now. You want to know my favorite part, Evan? Whenever I say something and then I start the show, I didn't hear a word you said all that entire sentence because I have the music screaming in my ears, and we're live.
It doesn't matter what he said because he said Jets, 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 Jets.
That's right.
I see you wearing the Jets green there, my friend.
Well, I'm not. Well, how was I going to do the intro? I was going to do something Eurovision related. Waterloo, I was defeated, you won the war because it's Saturday and it's Eurovision later. Hello, we are Pixel Pints. We are the only global podcast that talks about everything Zelda and how building in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom makes it a 10 out of 10. And that happy Zelda Day for whatever day Zelda came out. I heard from a source that it's morally okay to pirate Nintendo's games. So if you are playing Zelda tearing up in the kingdom, you're having a great time on an emulator. Well done, you.
Good for you getting that 60 frames per second.
Yeah. Apparently some of the shaders don't load in particularly well. So sometimes if you load into a cutscene, Link's face will be bright blue for about 3 seconds. But other than that, it apparently runs brilliantly on an emulator. So if you can pirate yourself a copy of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, do that because Nintendo don't need your money.
And they are charging you $70 for this title.
And instead spend your money on things that you want, or give it away to charity. There you go. Find that $70 and give some of it to charity, and not to Nintendo.
As long as you say it's from Link, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and if you could do that by chopping down some trees, and like magically stapling them together, and attaching a hook onto that, and then you could put your charitable donation on that, and then
have it
down a hill or something.
You don't have to push it. Conveniently, it's just at the perfect angle where it slowly goes, and then eventually it'll go. I wonder how many hours it took for them to get like that angle to make sure that it always slowly went. Like that probably took like 3 months of work.
They figured everything out.
Yes, we are the only global podcast that talks about two things that we enjoy, which is good beer and video games. We're not here to promote drinking. Please drink responsibly. Any beers or breweries we're talking about aren't sponsoring us. Although I wouldn't mind getting sponsored by a couple of the breweries that I've got. Well, maybe just one. You can find us on social media at pixel_pints on Twitter, where we post where we go live, and at pixelpointspod on Instagram. And Evan's had enough because I know he's gone to get his brand new Aaron Rodgers Jets jersey, which has just literally arrived. He will be sporting that, and I think he'll probably wear that from now until the Jets win the Super Bowl. He won't change and wear any other clothes at all.
No, he just realized he could play Zelda on the go, so he's just going to play it at the desk, pretending to listen to the podcast, pretending to say things on the podcast, but he's really just going to play some Zelda.
Oh, to be honest with you, all I want to do right now is play Zelda, but I would never stoop so low to play the Switch in handheld mode. That is...
Watch him look down in like 5 seconds.
Looking at my hands, staring at.
I was telling the crew earlier, being like, Evan, you're probably telling Your Majesty when she's just mentioning like, why you keep playing this game? You just go like, don't you understand? I'm trying to save you. You're Zelda. I'm trying to save you, Your Majesty.
Oh, Her Majesty doesn't get home till Tuesday, so
you have to save her by Tuesday, then I guess.
For 14 hours today. And then maybe a couple more tomorrow.
So that's how Evan's doing. Stefan, how are you doing?
Doing good. I've also been playing Zelda. That's pretty much it. Actually, I just got over COVID, so I'm doing a lot better than that. But overall, doing good.
So basically, you're saying
I
rather
w-
than take vaccines, people should play Zelda.
oh, I
to
took the
recover from COVID.
vaccines and boosters, but my mom got really sick and I got it from her. So
Everyone's recovered though at this
yeah,
point. That's good.
she was in the hospital for a few days because of it.
Well, she's all right now. She's
Yep.
back home. Okay, good. Yeah.
Well, you could, if you'd taken your Switch to the hospital, you could have played Zelda there, I suppose.
I don't think they would have.
10 days, whatever it is. Switch.
Yeah, would they even allow? Did they even allow you into the hospital if you have COVID to visit someone?
No,
No.
Yeah, I was gonna
they
say.
shouldn't do. But as long as you didn't tell them and just said, "I'm just here to play Zelda," they probably
Oh,
would
well.
have just let you in.
You know, I'm
Come right
protected.
in.
I'm protected. I got Zelda.
Yeah, I've stapled a mushroom to my shield. I'm obviously fine. Mitch, how are things in La?
La La Land is good. Just busy and got a full week in the gym this time without injury, so I'm good. So I'm gonna look Evan shirtless good soon. Cause it's just gonna have to be that way. No, I just played some Zelda. Only got like 2.5 hours in maybe, and then my food showed up, and then it was already too late at night, and I have to get up early for this thing. So I said bedtime, and I will be playing a bunch more hours later today. But it's interesting how, you know, when you give a game a 10 out of 10 for a game that really should have been like an 8.5 last time, and then this game is actually better, it's hard to give it a better score.
Well, it's obviously worth an 11.5.
It's also very
Introduce
confusing.
the 11 out of 10. This is the game where finally.
It's
they
a
break
time
the
for
scale.
them to get off their high horses and start doing their job. How about that? Because like that's what's so infuriating right now. It's just like, what the hell are these reviewers thinking? It's like, this game is actually better, so you actually could give it a higher score, but you can't do it because you already hindered yourself by giving a game that didn't deserve a 10 because it didn't have as well mechanicked. It was very like average mechanically for every other game.
I think mainly this one actually has a story in it.
Yes,
that you
this one
play.
actually has a story in it. It actually has some characters. It's actually pretty decent. I'm really enjoying it for 2 hours so
And
far
it
compared to
doesn't
the
tell a
first one.
story that happened 12,000 years ago or whatever it was meant to be.
And
that
you look up
don't-
pictures and you got to like put it all together. It's like, no. Well, I know they still do that in this one, but at least there's like an overarching plot that like goes along the way. It's just like, why do this? And it just makes me even more infuriated with reviewers of how stupid the system is and needs to change.
Just to let you know, I've not been playing Zelda because I don't give a single shit.
No, it's he's not playing because he's too busy having fun with Yakuza.
Oh,
Between a rock and a hard place, if you had to choose, you might go for Zelda by the sounds of it.
Oh, we'll get onto that when we get onto your topic because I will be bringing up Yakuza 0 a lot potentially. I've just got to
Good things, hopefully. Good things.
It's fucking garbage.
Oh, I don't like Zero, so you're barking up the wrong tree. You should have played Kiwami.
That wasn't part of the trades.
I know. I hate
that
them
wasn't on the
for it
table.
because they made you play the worst one. I think Zero is the worst one.
Oh, it's definitely bad.
You would have
I've
liked Kiwami.
I've just got past the absolutely cringeworthy cabaret girl mission.
Oh, dude, that's like one of the best things in that game. I played that for 10 hours maybe.
Of course you did, you dirty
It's so
pervert.
fun.
Evan, I'm sorry.
It's about the mechanics. It's not about
Oh,
the
it's about the mechanics.
Cabaret club.
And I walked into the underground kitty wrestling thing and just thought, no, this isn't for me, and just walked straight out.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I think is it where the women dress up as bugs and you play cards and they battle each other?
No, this is the wrestling ring where you go in and bet on women wrestling one another in skimpy outfits.
You know what? I wish Burkhoff was here. He actually got well into that. I did the exact
Oh, I
same
bet he
thing.
did.
You
We've
did.
seen him
I think
taking the
Skylar was
snapshots
there
of his
too.
Twitch feed.
They watched together, yeah.
Only in Yakuza could you say that with a straight face of being like, "Oh yeah, were you at the Bumblebee one? No, I was at the one where the girls were fighting each other, and I bet on which one wins."
Yeah, naturally. Of course.
Only Yakuza can be the only game you could say that about. Oh my god.
Yeah, 1980s Japan must have been great.
Yeah,
So
Evan, unfortunately, I think you made the wrong call to make him play that one. I think he would have liked Kiwami more just because it's not as bombastically outrageous and it would ease him into the series. But if you want to torture the man, which I'm happy you're torturing him, Zero was the right call.
Yeah, well, I have to play 2 games, which makes sense because Yakuza 0 is the longest out of all of them. Kiwami might have been a better deal because it's only about 18 hours, maybe 15,
True.
18.
That's true. And then also, I think like
most of the way through chapter 7. But what I did was, because we're straying into the topic, so I'll save that for a moment. But when I paused the game, I went down to I went through some of the settings. I'm on chapter 7, and it said percentage complete, 7.5% complete.
Yeah, that game's nuts. Yeah, I didn't even bother with a platinum trophy. I knew it would take me an extra 100 hours to get it. That game is it's bloated. I mean, I'll be honest.
I love
There's
that
no
this
way.
never happened when the conversation was coming about to assign him a game. Like, he definitely would have refused, and I love how you never mentioned all this stuff about, like, usually you platinum everything. I think he would have assumed you platinumed that game. So
I know you've done some of the Yakuza games, but
Smaller ones, yeah.
yeah, it's Mr. Libido. I mean, what? Who got given the job to design that character?
What does he do?
Yeah, in his underwear and a pair of Converse. He looks like, and he's just walking around the streets of Kamurocho thrusting at women. Who designed that character?
Japanese guys.
Oh my
Of course.
God! Right, shall we do beer talk?
I just realized I'm trying to look back now that you're talking about the old bets. It's like I'm trying to find where Burkhoff is in Final Fantasy so I know how much torture I have to be with Starfield. And all I see is
So
Zelda, Zelda, and I can't find it anymore.
Yeah, the game diary thread is screwed. It's Zelda's taken
It's
over.
screwed for the next like month and a half.
Is he playing it on PS5?
Hopefully, he's emulating it.
No, he's playing
it-
on PC.
I was gonna say he could probably just figure out how long he's played it.
Oh,
If you look at his Steam account, because he's playing it on his Steam Deck.
Yeah, I don't have it. I don't have his. I'm not friends with him on Steam.
I am.
I barely want to be friends with him off Steam. So
I mean, he's going all the way with the game. So I
Yeah, he
imagine
is
he's
going all the way.
putting in
He's gonna make me earn
30-ish
all those
hours, maybe?
minutes. Oh, God. Okay. Well, we talked about it last week, but big fail. You better not mess up this Starfield and torture me with my looking like 40 effing hours of streaming Starfield.
or we could do that, and we could help you create the weirdest looking character.
Do you want that to be
fun.
the episode to start like my stream is an episode of Pixel Pints where we go through the creator and pick my character and then just stream for the rest of the day?
And your initial build.
Yeah.
That could be quite good fun.
I'm down for that.
Evan can make him look like Mr. Libido.
Yeah, I can't say how. Well, I'll talk to Burkhoff. I wonder if I do this, can I reduce 10 hours of playtime if you guys get to pick exact features of my character, exact build, and I cannot like argue.
This guy's trying to make negotiations and like side bets before the game even comes out.
I'm not looking. Well, I read the
years of
ESRB
your
of the
life
game
sentence.
came out with the description of the game, and it sounds so boring. It's like you're a miner exploring space, collecting fossils and resources. How interesting is that?
I'm sure it's more interesting than that, but that is a pretty bad elevator pitch.
Well,
I
I'm
would
sure
not
the ESRB
fund
for
that game.
Red Dead Redemption 2 also sounded really boring.
Yep.
And there were
Oh,
large
hold on.
sections
I'll
of
look
that
it up
game
now.
were really boring.
Let's get this right.
You have a giant mustache.
While you do that, you
and
can
shoot
tell me what
people.
beer you're having.
Well, I've got a few here. Because it's Saturday, I have Saturday Lager from And Union. And Union do absolutely brilliant beers. They do a Friday night IPA, which is 6.5%, a Saturday Lager, a Sunday Session IPA, and they do the black lager as well that I've had on here before. Is a German brewery. But if you can get hold of anything that And Union do, absolutely amazing. I have from Green King Icebreaker Pale Ale.
I think I've had that.
Yeah, so this is a unfiltered pale ale, which for it being unfiltered is surprisingly clear. But this stuff's really nice as well. Quite creamy, mouthfeel, and a really powerful hop hit. And then the last one that I have, which is this stuff's good. This is the one thing to come out of Wales that is any good. Tiny Rebel Brewing. It's a $5 shake. Creamy Citra IPA. So they're using Citra hops, but this stuff is got a really creamy mouthfeel as well. It is like drinking. I've had as part of my random box of beers, ice cream pale ales before, and it's kind of got that feel to it, but not quite so much. But you could quite easily mistake that for an ice cream pale. But yeah, all three of these are really delicious beers.
All right.
Hey,
So
you said that's the only thing to come out of Wales. Evan's a Welsh name. What are you talking about?
Yeah. The only good thing to come out of Wales.
I was waiting for, like I said, the only good thing to come out of Wales. All
right.
I'm drinking.
Go ahead.
Oh,
I was
Mitch,
gonna
do
say
you wanna
here are the two ESRBs. Tell me which you like better, and then we'll go to Evan. Red Dead Redemption. It's an action adventure game in which players assume the role of Arthur Morgan, a member of an outlaw gang on the run in 1899. From a first and third person perspective, players traverse an open world, Wild West environment, complete mission objectives, interact with characters, and engage in gunfights with lawmen and other outlaws. Players use bows, pistols, shotguns, rifles, explosives to kill enemies. In combat, shooting enemies occasionally triggers a close-up, slow motion view, and enemies gain shot and killed. Players can also use tomahawks and knives to perform stealth kills, blah, blah, blah. Now here's Starfield, an open world role-playing game in which players assume a role of a miner tasked to finding artifacts across the galaxy. From first, third-person perspectives, players interact with various characters, complete quests, and search for supplies while battling enemies. Players are used futuristic lasers, guns, axes, to explosives to kill enemies. Combat is fast-paced and frequent gunfire ceases and explosions. Which one's more interesting? I think the Red Dead Redemption one sounds better.
Well, if Red Dead 2 was that interesting or exciting, I probably wouldn't have stopped playing it in like 2 hours. I hated that game.
I'm sorry, I forgot to include petting horses. I forgot. It was supposed to be a real life simulator.
You forgot to
chores.
say it has daily chores that you can do as well. So that's what the Citra cream ale looks like. So I'd
Is
say
that all
looks more
carbonation?
filtered. That will settle quite a lot.
Okay,
It's because I
pretty-
poured quite quickly. But yeah, this stuff's amazing.
All right, go for it, Evan.
Shout out to your Hobgoblin pint glass you got.
Yeah, that cost me 1p.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because what I did, you were meant to buy it as a special promotion for 1p if you bought 4 cans of Hobgoblin IPA. So I just picked up the glass and scanned the glass.
Hey, there you go. Any way you can cheat the system, those little wins are everything. Especially when the IRS sends you a bill for $3,600. Wait a minute, from 2016. Like, how can you tax my income? I don't live in the States. I've been here for 12 years. You fucking thieves. So I'm drinking Ichiban Shibori. This I'm obviously a little bit drunk, but this is the state of me. When McWomble messaged me, he's like, "Are you coming on the show?" And I looked like, "Oh shit!" I grabbed the 2 beers on the table, and both were almost half full. So that's where I am. But a bit later, I will be opening the Mino Stout, and it is. I think I've had this before. It is your basic stout, but they do it really, really well. Like pretty much all the Mino beers, or at least their main lineup is we're gonna do a pilsner, we're gonna do a stout, we're gonna do a pale ale, and it's exactly what you'd want out of that style. There's no surprises, and that's not a bad thing. I have a question for you guys, chiefly McWomble. It says it won the World Beer Cup Golden Award in 2009, 2014, and 2016. Now, highlighted on the front of this little neck label here, it says World Beer Cup 2016 Gold Award. How long can you keep that on there before you win another one? Because, I mean, that's like 7 years ago. I don't know. I mean,
Well,
I've seen car companies.
I would say.
I was gonna say I see car companies in their commercials talk about safety ratings that they got in like 2012, and I'm like, dude, it's 2023. Like
JD Power and Associates.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, they hang on to those things as long as they can. I mean, they won it.
Well, I saw there was a very good Indian restaurant near me has got a sign outside saying award-winning biryani, but then there's no details about when they won the award.
Asterisk.
There's a pizza place around the corner as well that said local food award winner 2014. So yeah, I was like, okay.
I
But
like how it's
the worst thing about that is half of the sticker is peeling off. So they can't even be bothered to get a new sticker done and put back up. They just left it there.
it's all
and it's
sun
half peeling off
bleached.
the window.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like how the local food award doesn't even have like an actual name. Like restaurant award winner. Yeah, so the stout is good, and I'll be drinking that a bit later, but I'm gonna stick to the Ichiban Shibori for
If I could,
little bit.
I'd put up a background just saying Pixel Pints Award winner 2012 or something.
just very small asterisk and then nominated by myself or whatever. The fine print.
When we get a night show, I have a beer. It's in my fridge that I want to try, but I don't want to do it in the morning. So when we get a midnight show going again, I will do a beer on the show.
I do have 2 beers from Hokkaido. A friend went there over Golden Week and he brought them back, but I think Her Majesty would be pissed if I cracked it open. Because she knows I'm going to be drinking all night tonight. So if she comes back and it's gone, she's gonna be like, you just got like really fucking drunk and played Zelda all night and drank my Hokkaido beers, right? I'm like, yeah. So I'm gonna be nice.
And then you
he's
just
gonna do
and then
that
you
in
just
about
put
an
your
hour's
hand
time.
up and you go, but you married me, right? You
Yeah.
married me, didn't you?
I swear, when she's gone, it's pure debauchery. I feel like I'm in a university again. Like I
You
I
feel
didn't
like
do
a 12-year-old?
anything today. I ordered food. Everything's in the sink. I did clean that up before the show. It's awful. I like how she keeps me even keel, but when she leaves, I take advantage of it to a irresponsible degree.
Don't worry. We'll segment this section, send it to her, and say, play this on your 1-year anniversary.
Actually, what time is it? Almost midnight, and I'm actually not that drunk. She'd actually be pretty proud of me. What does that say about me, though?
Oh my
I'm gonna stop right there. It's not good.
You're talking yourself into a pit of doom.
Right. Should we get topical?
Are we gonna get tropsical? Because that's where I'm going.
Oh, you're back on the Alani.
I'm back on the Alani. Well, because I'm up at 6 a.m. to go to the gym, I'm so tired. I need a Red Bull to get myself sugar-free, though. I need a sugar-free Red Bull to give me enough energy to like get there because I'm tired. It helps. But anyway, yes, we can get on to the show.
Evan, would you like to introduce your topic?
Yeah, so this is brought about by I just finished the latest Horizon Forbidden West
Burning Shores.
Burning Shores DLC,
Same here.
and
First, did you like it?
yeah, I liked it a lot. And partly is because it is an open world by definition, but the open world itself is compact, but it's dense, and I think I clocked in at about 12 to 15 hours. And after playing a ton of open world games, and I'm not the I know a lot of people just love the collectathon, and I don't like it because I tend to do all that stuff and I get sick of it. But after the 15 hours, I was satisfied with everything I did. I almost 100% of it, and that was it. I was done. And I started thinking. I think some of my most not memorable moments, but the best times I've had with open worlds are the smaller open worlds. So Far Cry New Dawn, which was kind of a DLC or a spin-off of Far Cry 5, clocks in at about 11 hours. Uncharted Lost Legacy, 7 hours. Frozen Wilds, 7.5. Burning Shores, 7, I guess. Hearts of Stone, The Witcher 3 is 10. Blood and Wine is 15. And I just started thinking about the idea of maybe smaller open worlds are the way to go, and just trim the fat. So instead of there being 100 collectibles and 30 side quests, cut that by half or even more. And so the writers on the side quests can focus more on tighter side quests, more memorable side quests, and quality over quantity type of stuff across the board. So yeah, Burning Shores is kind of what brought me to think about the idea of smaller open worlds, and I wanted to hear what you guys, maybe your experiences with open worlds, how much you like them, and what you think about them.
How does that compare with what you've been playing on Zelda then?
That's a
Sorry,
that's a good
saying Zelda
question. That's a
just
good
made me nearly
question.
throw up in my mouth.
No.
Yeah, that is a really good question, and I have such a ridiculous answer. I'm such a Zelda mark that one thing that frees me from this prison is there are no trophies in Zelda. So technically there is a 100%, but their 100% is so ridiculous when you have to fill out the compendium for everything that it would take too long. It's like Yakuza 0, a game that I love very much. I saw what it would take to complete that game 100%, and like it's so far from sanity that I wasn't even going to entertain the idea. So with Zelda, I'm happy with pacing myself and not paying attention to Korok seeds because there's 900. I'm not even going to collect half of those. I'm fine with that. So
You don't
I
want
don't
the golden poop?
I wonder if they're going to do that again. I think maybe they'll just make it a bigger golden poop, like fuck you guys twice, fool me twice. Shame on
George W. Bush.
yes. So yeah, I mean that is.
I
a good
like
question.
that the Brit knows our American culture better than we do.
I got the quote wrong, but that's one of my favorite moments of dumb U.S. president. It's so good.
The first one is the day after he got elected, he was meant to have a visit with President Musharraf of Pakistan, and he said, "I'm looking forward to meeting President Mush, the president of Pakistan."
Is that the time he got a shoe thrown at him also?
I don't remember that. No, that would have been after.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that man was stupid beyond belief. Not quite as stupid as the last one you had.
He's got good paintings.
Yeah. So, McWomble, that is a good question. My easy way out is Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom is the exception to the rule, I guess.
But why? That's the ultimate question. Like is it what about the Zelda Breath of the Wild? What's the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom that makes it the exception to the rule? Besides
I just think it does exploration in such a different way. It's very, very hands off, and you're not tethered to some of the not trappings, but the design of other open world games where it's directing you to all this stuff. The side quests seem very cut and paste.
What about
to me and lots of other games.
Let me throw you one. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but like, let me throw you Ghost of Tsushima. Do you think they're very similar? Because I feel like they are.
That was more region locked, wasn't it? So you start off in your first
Right.
region on
But I think,
Tsushima Island, and then
but
go up and go north.
the only reason I bring it up is because the exploration and discovery is a lot more freeing in that game. You can't, there's no waypoint until you actually walk by it. And usually you'll discover it because a bird will kind of lead you in that direction, but you don't even need the bird. Sometimes you can just see a hot spring in the corner and see the smoke coming up, and you're like, oh, that's probably a hot spring. I'll go to the hot spring. Or
yeah, the other thing I liked about Ghost of Tsushima, now you mentioned it, is looking at the map. You could kind of think about where something might be just by pausing and thinking, right, there's a lake there. I bet there's something by the lake. And then just head off in that direction, and you're bound to find something.
Or like you
Whereas
look on the map, and then you see in the distance there's a bunch of mountains, and you're like, oh, okay, there's mountains there, so then probably something is behind it. So let me go behind it.
Yeah, it's simple things like that I like about open world games, and then taking a different extreme and looking at something like we mentioned earlier, Red Dead Redemption 2, where you could ride your horse for hours if you wanted to,
and achieve nothing.
Yeah. And okay, you may run across some kind of random event happening in the world, but I'd rather. I understand why they took that approach, because it was meant to be more of a open world cinematic style adventure where you have the downtime between the missions for you to do your chores, and who'd have thought chores were good in a game? And that's where you're talking about bloat. I thought, going back to Horizon Zero Dawn, because I haven't got a PS5 because I couldn't get one, and now I can't afford one. I thought that was probably a little bit big as well. Even when you got the ability to use mounts, some of the traversal across the open world seemed a bit like too much downtime. I did find that I ran into more open world events in that than I did in Red Dead Redemption 2, which I've mentioned on this podcast many years ago. Just happened across a fight where some people were fighting one of the tiger panther creatures. I can't remember the name of them. And then suddenly a Thunderjaw just showed up.
Yeah, I once had in like, I agree with you. I also think, though, like, in agreement with you again, of like the environment was, I found interesting things happened with how the systems interacted with each other. Like, I had two alligators fighting each other, and then one threw one, and it actually landed where I was hiding, and I had to bolt it because they just exposed me. But like, you never would think that would happen. It's just like, it's because naturalistically that's what the creatures did, and fortunate enough, it caused a real moment that I think I would have experienced in real life if these things were actually real. Like, I thought that was fantastic.
Do you think
naturalistically, not a word, but it sounded good.
do you think the common thread between open world games that you like is environmental storytelling?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I am more in agreement with, like, Horizon is a good game, great game. Don't get me wrong. It's not the kind of open world game I like. I think it delves in the thing of, this is my thing about open worlds, and I think this goes into Evan's thread, which leads to where we're going with this, is the thing I don't like about open world games is I open it up and I feel like I have homework. I have all these assignments I have to get done. I got like all these story missions, all these side missions, all these things to collect. I got all these things to find. I got all these things to get. It's way too much. It's overstimulating. It's really stressful, and it's really frustrating because it's like, I don't have the time in my life to do all this stuff. Do I want to do all this stuff? Maybe, maybe not. The thing also is, like, once I see how much I have to do, it makes me less interested. And especially if they're all the same type of tasks. That's the other thing.
Well,
So,
piggybacking off you, Mitch, and maybe I might be able to say it slightly more succinctly, is developers fall into the trap of turning an open world into a busy work simulator.
true. Yeah, very much so. And I think they're trying to use it to be able to, well, I mean, there's reasons why you would do it. Like, I understand the development side of why you would do such a thing. To design wise, once you create that type of task, you can replicate it and create it and be able to take the time to replicate it on a mass scale. So then, therefore, you find ways to be able to add it to the world. So, like, say I make this task of, like, you can find this, you need to find these objects. Well, the objects have been created. All I need to do is now place them in the world. That's my task that I have to do to get that done. That is not a high bandwidth type of task that's going to take up a lot of my time or a lot of other people's time. Like, that's one person or a couple people could do, not a whole team of making a system to be able to make it. Like, it's just placed in the world. You know, when they're like, hey, I want more missions, like, these things aren't easy to make. Like, they do take a lot of time from the dev work, and they want to make sure that they're, like, getting those story missions done first, because those are the most important things, and then disseminate from there. And so when you get to a lot of, like, things where it's like collectibles and stuff, you know that they were more focusing on the main story than they were focusing on other stuff. Now we're seeing a lot more a lot more studios trying to evenly spread out the work to make sure there's meaningful side content, because then people are a little more forgiving of all that kind of stuff. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is, it's not my kind of open world game. I think Ghost of Tsushima is my kind of open world game. It's and it's similar to Tomb Raider as well. I love, and I think this goes to what Evan's point is, and I think Evan would appreciate this too, is I
Putting
love
words
it.
in his mouth. He might disagree with you in principle.
We'll see. Depends on how much beer he had. My type of open world game is those sub open worlds, where it's, you go to this section, it's an open world area. It's not enormous. It's not the full map, but it's part of the map. and so what you can do is, you can still do, like, all the stuff you do in an open world game. It's just a little more condensed. There's not as many of it. It's less stressful. So, like, Ghost of Tsushima, there's, like, 3 different side missions you can do. There's still the collectibles you can do along the way, and then there's, like, then just the story missions that you hop around. But it's not like there's 50 of them. There's, like, 10. And that's not that much. And it feels a little more doable. And then you go to the next hub area, and there's more of that again, but then less of it, 10 and then 10. And then eventually you get through the full list and you feel accomplished, but it's not overwhelming to start.
Yeah, because if picking on that game, is I had no problem whatsoever in 100%ing each of the regions before I moved on to the next region.
Same. And I usually don't do that.
Whereas in Horizon, I spent far too long in the first region just trying to basically over-level Aloy, so that when I knew that I went to the next region, I was going to be over-leveled. Whereas I'm trying to think of a different example. One I haven't played, the Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla style ones, which are quite big open worlds and technically aren't gated, but they're level gated.
Yeah.
So if you go to this place, you're going to be way under leveled, so you're going to have your ass handed to you. So very few games hit that sweet spot for me that Ghost of Tsushima did, in the sense of, yes, you can travel all around here if you want to, and you can do it in a very cool way. And here's the interactive element of, oh, you've just stumbled, there's a fox, okay, I'm finding a fox shrine now. Whereas when I tried to play Assassin's Creed 3, I just felt like it was too much. there was just too much of everything, and they got to that stage where they just made too much of the last 3 games, to the point where Valhalla now, I think with all the DLC, is at 150 hours if you were to start that fresh.
Yeah, it's great.
I
It's
do not
crazy.
I do not have the time commitment to do that in an open world game. So I'd much rather have a condensed open world, not called Yakuza 0. That game's shit.
And I think the second element that you're getting into, though, is like, so there's that element that's really good to make a good open world game not be as like overwhelming. The second element, which I think you were getting to, Stefan, which was environmental. It's not entirely environmental storytelling, but like what makes Ghost of Tsushima to me is that it is so gorgeous. I want to explore every bit of that world, to see every nook and cranny, because there's such a sense of like every area there might be a little shock and awe of surprise of what the environment has. And so I think even more with that is the wind mechanic of being able to create wind points with wind instead of your standard just like waypoint.
Yeah, plot marker here on the map.
Yeah, you can put a
big blob on screen.
Yeah, you can instead of that having that on your screen as you're running to an area, instead just like have it totally just be the wind. And I think also it helps that like they block off the entire map, and the only way to open up the map is to discover the areas by walking to them instead of like going to a tower, and then the tower opens up all these side missions and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, if you go to that area, then you see the area. And I think with all those like little nooks and crannies along the way to each mission, I didn't mind when I see a bird or a fox taking a minute to do it, because I know, oh, it only takes a couple minutes. One, because it's not as like strenuous as a task. Two, they lead me to an interesting area. So like, oh, look at this, like, look at the way they decided to do like the color change in the leaves, and now I'm in a bamboo forest instead of just in an open grass plain area. And then 3, like, who doesn't want to pet a fox? Come on now.
I am so OCD-ish that like I'll get bogged down by just a ton of collectibles, so I need something that's actually exciting, like you were mentioning with Ghost of Tsushima. I just played, I haven't played it too, is Tachia. And my first thought was to venture off with the sail, but it wouldn't let me go to like a different island. It would just drown me. And I was like, oh, that's probably good.
Drown the child. Drown the child.
I was trying to think of the last open world game that I played.
Did you ever play Dragon Age Inquisition?
I started it. I didn't get.
That's
through.
A Burkoff one. That's a Burkoff.
Yeah,
We need Burkoff on the show for that one.
Mrs. Burkoff, I think, has played that through twice.
Yes, that's why we need Burkoff on the show.
I got to the first zone and had to stop because it's so big and it has so many things to collect and do. But you're only meant to spend like just a couple hours in it for the story. So I'm like, why do you have this much stuff in it?
Yeah. It's the same as Forbidden West, where the initial area is completely overboard. It's chainsaw hacksaw ridge, whatever.
Yeah,
Ridge is
6 hours.
Insert weird name here.
Yeah, it is actually. Welcome to Chainsaw Hacksaw Ridge. We should probably rename
What
that
we did,
town.
we got hacksaws and we tied them to a chain and we turned the hacksaws into a chain hacksaw.
And the
That sounds
hacksaw
like
the hacksaw is our god. He's up there in the corner. We drew him with stone.
That's one of
Sounds
my
like someone in the South who has a lot of money and a lot of time just decided to tape things together. But yeah, in Dragon Age Inquisition, I remember the videos popping up, and one of the tips was get out of that initial area as soon as possible.
Yeah,
because you're gonna burn out.
It's
why did you make it that big? Why didn't you direct the player out of it?
And that's a pet peeve of mine with a lot of open worlds, is that they make zones so big and they want you to move on, but they put all this enticing stuff to do, and it just makes it so you don't finish the game.
Yeah, I ran into that with So I tried the new like Assassin's Creed Origins Odyssey thing. I played Odyssey, and I was like, did that first area, and then I didn't know it was the first area. I thought I was playing the game, and then it gave me title, and I was like, wait, that was a prologue? I spent 6 hours in that area. Are you freaking kidding me?
Ridiculous.
It's a prologue? I all of a sudden that completely turned me off from the title. I was like, there is no way I'm gonna finish the thing. And I think I got like 10 more hours in. I said hell no and walked away.
Wasn't that kind of at least the year that game came out? Wasn't that kind of their badge of honor? Like, we're putting the title screen 5 hours into this game to show you how big this game is. And I'm glad we're past that. Hopefully we are. Hopefully people are reevaluating what an open world can be, and it's not just how many hours a game is to justify the price and everyone's.
No, that's Ubisoft's mantra. That's
true.
Make the game as big as possible. We want the games to be as big as possible.
I mean, they might be rethinking things considering they're hurting right now, and all of their shit kind of is so similar in a way, even though it's kind of a different skin.
Well, they said that Mirage is going back to the Assassin's Creed 1 style. Mitch, this will make you laugh. I couldn't remember the last open world game I played. So I had to scroll through my Xbox achievements list.
That's great.
Halo Infinite was the last open world game I played, and I couldn't remember that I played it.
Wow.
I gave up on that after a few hours. I thought it was boring.
I finished it. It was horrible. I can't believe some people gave that a 9 for their campaign. I was like, how is that campaign a 9?
Yeah, the campaign is pretty dull. The open world is really dull.
The mechanics are really good. Like, they're really solid. Like, it reminds me of old Halo.
Only when you get the grapple shot.
Yeah. And then, but after that, the game is a total like 8.5 max. Like, giving it a 9, you're crazy.
The mechanics should have been focused just to use more for multiplayer stuff, I think. Because the open world was too big for Halo, so it was really dull, and I felt like they wanted to implement it with that a lot.
Well, that one is pure development time. That thing ran out of development time because they started over, and I think, and I stand by this. And again, people call me an Xbox hater, but I'm gonna tell you for a fact, like, Halo Infinite could have been in a freaking amazing game, because I do like the mechanics really well. I think they have great foundational mechanics. If they had more time to flesh out the open world to make a decent story instead of the crap we got, I could have said Halo's back, but no, they fell short in all the other categories.
They tried to do the thing that we were talking about with Ghost of Tsushima, which was they had you start off here and you do stuff, and then you open up a bit, and then you can move on to the next bit of.
But they didn't have very much to do after.
There wasn't that much to do.
Yeah.
You go to an outpost, you liberate the outpost, you kill this guy, you get a bounty, you go kill them. It's okay, I'm bored now. Evan, you've got all this to look forward to on Game Pass if you want to download Halo Infinite. Is the most fun that I had moving around the open world, because you can get vehicles to help you with it, is as soon as I unlocked the vehicles that fly, that was it. The open world was done. I was done with moving around the open world. If I've got a waypoint, I'm getting a flying vehicle and I'm going to fly there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
So going back to Burning Shores, did you have that kind of feeling, Mitch/Evan, where now you could kind of mount flying creatures? Oh no, because they put that tower.
No, once you take out the tower, you can fly basically anywhere except for one spot on the map. So taking out the towers, is the first mission, basically the first story mission.
Yeah, they take it away from you so that you learn how to use the boat, but then they give it back to you quite quickly.
I'm pretty sure I know how to use a boat.
Also, they do it because,
right?
I think they also do it because they want to, it's been a while. They want to reteach all the controls of like fighting and all that kind of stuff again, get people refamiliarized with the game, because I know I needed it. I forgot how to do things, and I was like, how did I play this game? But anyway, you get it back. I'm probably a little bit different than Evan on this one. I think the Burning Shores did not remind me of condensed, small, dense, like open world game. I felt like it was just like every other open world game I've played. It's just more Horizon. Never did any side missions. I beelined. I couldn't care less.
There's like maybe two side missions in that entire.
But even so, like I think the
game
map was still big. I was like, wow, this map is pretty hefty, and there's not really there is stuff, but not a lot of stuff. You know, I have my gripes about, you know, the diving underwater flying section, but that's just me. I don't like personally, I don't really like the flying mechanics in the game in general. It doesn't feel as good as I think it should. It also is kind of wonky a little bit. Like, I think it's not meant to be a combat / maneuvering mechanics. It's just meant to be a cruiser.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you guys, because I found that, well, is it that there wasn't anything interesting enough in Halo Infinite for me to care about the open world, but I really did enjoy the open world in Zero Dawn. So I think having the ability to fly over the open world would have ruined that experience for me.
But that's why they give it to you last. Like, you don't get the mount until like the very end of the game. So like, you do still get that experience. But yes, I could see that for you, McWomble, being like, yes, that would take away from the rest of like the experience of the game. But I think what they do really well is, you know, they don't give it to you till the end anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Sorry, spoiler, but who cares?
So it's like the motorcycle in Breath of the Wild. You have to do everything, and then you just have a thing to drive around on.
Pretty much. I think you get it like second to last mission, basically.
Yeah. It's weird that they think like, oh, but I finished everything. Why now I'm going to just do it all again? Like, are you out of your mind? I'm on hour 80.
This is why I think if we want to define a small open world, I'd like to throw one into the mix, and that would be Arkham City.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. It feels big, but it's not that big. Mitch does not agree.
I liked it because I felt I'm a huge Batman fan. I like some of the story stuff in it.
Mitch likes Arkham Knight. Can we
Arkham Knight
ignore his
sucks.
opinion on this?
Hey. I like Arkham City. Don't get me wrong. I like it a lot. I think it's better than Arkham Knight. I'm just saying Arkham Knight is not as bad as people say it is. Anyway,
it's fucking terrible compared to the first two.
I never finished it.
It is the worst of the three, but it's not a bad game.
Compared to Halo Infinite and other such monstrosities out there.
Thank you. Yes.
2 words.
It's good.
Tank stealth. Tank stealth. Let me just with my giant 10-ton machine, let me just sneak over here. Whap you.
How many
stick?
How many people did Batman kill in that game?
Well, I just
with that thing.
Hundreds.
I guess for me it's like
permanently incapacitated.
Yes, did Arkham City, like, this is the first open world Batman game legitimately, because the first one was more of more like a Metrovania, because it had locked areas and then you get new mechanics and you can go back through, which I preferred. I actually really liked that a lot. I didn't find the open world that compelling. Like, I guess again, like it was a put Batman in every other open world design that we do for every open world game. Now, is it more interesting in some aspects because it's Batman and I do like Batman? Sure. But like, it really isn't doing anything different. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's still like collect all the Riddler trophies. Yeah.
There's no way I did that.
Yeah, I didn't do that either. But like, I get it. And there is some reward to doing that, which I do give it a little more props for. At least, like, if you collected a bunch of them, you have a Riddler final boss. That's kind of cool. So you are rewarded for the thing that you're doing, compared to just, oh, you collected all the power cells. Congratulations. It's like, no, like, give me something worth my time. Or what's the other one? Is like something about, Oh, it's like oh Jesus, there's another game that you get like a cool reward with a cool like combat mission. I think it is Batman. Isn't Deadshot? Isn't it Deadshot like is following you or something like that? I can't remember.
Oh, that was in. Oh, no, are you thinking of Spider-Man?
Well, I know there's a Catwoman sequence where you can take pictures where Catwoman's been the entire time, but
that's
That's
no,
Spider.
you are thinking of Spider-Man. That's
what
Black
is-
Cat.
Yeah.
No,
have to
but
take
like
pictures.
there's something where anyway, what I'm trying to say is like I find it cool that there's like no, it's Arkham Knight. It's Arkham Knight. You're following
Yeah,
Deadshot
that's why I
around.
blotted it from my memory.
Yeah, it's like
Fuck that game.
sorry, but like in the open world, I appreciated that, you know, if I found all the things from Deadshot, I have a final confrontation with Deadshot at the end. That's kind of cool. So like there is rewarding for taking the time to do it, which then makes me more less stressed of being because like I guess final thing, I'm talking too much. But anyway, my thing is like I don't like collecting things just to collect things. I want a good reward out of it. So like if you're going to give me a mission or if you're going to give me like a really cool boss battle at the end of collecting things, I am more okay with having the collectathon than not having a collectathon. If that, I mean, and then just having a collectathon with nothing, if that makes sense. So like give everything purpose and I will be happy.
Okay, I can tell you now the best way to collect experience points in any open world game that's ever been made and potentially ever will be made is the swinging in Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean,
Or the jumping in
it's so
Crackdown.
fun.
That is really satisfying. The
So
super
it's-
jumping. That's
Wait, are you saying you gain experience just from swinging?
Yep.
It's like a passive thing.
yeah. If you do
Yeah.
tricks in the air, you get extra
Okay.
experience points. I did
you
it
can
all the
constantly
time.
get experience as you're traversing. Yeah,
So I'll
And
just
yeah,
do
that's-
flips and tricks all the time.
you just and it's just so fun to just swing in that game.
Oh, I love doing
You
backflips.
feel like Spider-Man. That's as close as you're gonna get.
Oh man, it's so good.
Yeah, so when I do get a PS5, I'm going to have to replay that game.
I mean,
and
by the
like
time you get a
Evan-
PS5, you might be able to play Spider-Man too. I mean, it's still they're still
probably
saying
will
it
be
comes
able
out
to.
this year. So
Yeah.
Keith, do you have Game Pass?
Yes.
Check to see if with it if you can play Divinity 2 Eco Chronis. It's an old like action RPG open world. I think it's backwards compatible, but like that's one of my favorite open worlds because you're pushed it's still linear where you have to go from segment to segment and each zone is big. So it kind of reminds me of how like with Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy, you're still moving forward, but then you have like the big zones. Before that, it wasn't really like that. And then you can also transform into a dragon and fly around, and it turns into like almost like a Star Fox thing.
It doesn't. There's nothing listed for Divinity or Cronus on Game Pass.
That's too bad.
he just
but
blew
I
on
can't
it like he's like, I did this. I did amazing searching.
It had a little hair on my phone. It bugged me. I can't believe we hadn't brought up Spider-Man yet. That's one thing. Okay, that does fall into some of the same
Yeah,
tropic
agreed.
sense, but just swinging around from one side of Manhattan to the other just felt so good.
Yeah,
I
I'd
mean,
agree with
Miles
that.
Morales solves a lot of the problems from the first game, and that's a team that learned a lot from the initial Spider-Man, where they trimmed the fat,
But
made it
I'd
smaller.
argue the scope of it was originally smaller, so like it was going to be
Sure.
more condensed. Whereas like I don't
Right,
anticipate that for the next Spider-Man. Like I expect
No,
it to
it's
be
gonna
just
be
as bigger. Not bigger,
And
but
you're-
like as big as the original.
Miles Morales was cheaper as well, right?
yes.
I believe.
Yeah, it was like $40 or
price-wise,
something
yeah.
like that.
I think one thing in general with open world games, philosophy wise, I was thinking about how the Assassin's Creed, the Eagle vision and the Batman vision in the Arkham games, kind of
Detective mode.
detective mode. Thank you.
Yeah.
It teaches you not to pay attention to things because you'll go into a room that is there's so
Filled with
much
beer
stuff
cans
going
on
on.
the
There's
floor.
there's this, it's so intricately put together, but you're not really paying attention because the game teaches you to rely on the detective mode, and you keep pushing that button like, I don't know what I'm looking at. That's okay. That's the thing I'm supposed to look at. And the same thing with eagle vision, and then you end up not paying attention to anything that you're not supposed to. And it's with open world games, I think there's a bit of hand holding with games like Horizon where you can highlight something on the map and it'll show you exactly where you need to go and how many steps it's going to take for you to get there. And when you hit that section, it'll extend it partitions off like the waypoint in sections to show you exactly where you're going, and it's helping you so that you don't get lost. But the thing is, in that game, if I don't have a waypoint, I get lost in cities all the time because I don't learn the cities for myself, because I'm always constantly putting waypoints down, because it's teaching me, like detective mode, to hold my hand all the time. And I think something that, and I won't talk about Breath of the Wild a lot, Keith, I swear, it released you from that, where it stripped away a lot of the bullshit that had been plaguing open world games, where like, and it was novel at the time, this is 2017, like, oh, you can stand, like, I can't really see where I'm at, I'm going to climb this mountain, and you climb the mountain, you feel satisfied, and then you look yourself on top of the mountain for interesting things, and then you pin them yourself, and there's a certain satisfaction on there. It's not holding your hand. And I think with open world games, it's nice when they do move away from this hand-holdy stuff. And I think Ghost of Tsushima, which we keep coming back to, is a great midpoint between there. And McWomble was talking about how the game just does a really good job of teaching you how to explore the game in a very non-hand-holdy way, even though it is bigger than some of these more condensed kind of Far Cry New Dawn, Frozen Wild type of games, where it quadrants things off, or not quadrants, but it sections things off. But in those sections, they don't cram a lot of stuff in there. They thought really, really hard about, like, we're going to put like very important things, but not a lot of them in this section. And the way that you're going to find them is we're going to give you environmental hints. Like, one of the best things this game did is the foxes and the birds to nudge you towards places that you might not have found yourself. And they just do a good job. And then like McWomble said, he isn't 100% stuff, but he 100% of that game, because they do such a great job of sectioning it off and making you feel satisfied and feeling like you explored it yourself, while slightly nudging you in the right direction. And in a game like Horizon, in between the cities or the fights that I'm doing or the side quests, do you explore? There's nothing to explore in between those spaces. There's nothing there. The game holds your hands so much
that I
you
did was, like Stefan was saying, my mild sense of OCD came in on Horizon Zero Dawn.
You know how long it took me to get to the Meridian City in that game?
It took me ages, absolutely hours, because I couldn't have a single tiny bit of cloud covering any of that map.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Agreed. We did the same thing.
So
it depends on the person.
I had to clear it off, and that took me time. But
the map layout did not work to its advantage by having the city in the middle, and then everything is clouded around it. So you have to go all the way around just to clear it before you go to Meridian City. A
thing that game ran into is because the map is quite detailed when you zoom in, because you can see like an overhead view as if it were Google Maps. So you zoom into something like, oh, this is an open area. Something is here. You go there, there's nothing there. And then 10 hours later, there's a side quest that's like, oh, my cousin is lost. And then you go there, and then all of a sudden it's populated with enemies. You're like, oh, this is what this was for. So you're not rewarded for exploring on your own. You have to hit that side quest.
But I would argue that Forbidden West does take on that a little bit by offering a little more nooks and crannies and areas where, like, there's underwater sections that you can explore now, and caves to find good resources, or there's things on the wall, or even like buildings are mini puzzles that if you have enough of the tools that you can solve and you find really good loot. I think they did better on Forbidden West, at least, of solving that a little bit more.
I love the puzzles in that game because it was just you can spend so long fighting. It's like, oh, this is a nice breather. It's a palate cleanser.
Or after you do a big
the
fight,
main things you're doing,
but
then it's ruined by her explaining the puzzles as you're doing them.
Not these. Not
this
these.
This is a completely different issue.
The story puzzles she explains, but the side puzzles that you find, she doesn't explain at all to you.
Oh, you're talking about purely like visual stuff, like what's that over there? And
No. So like an example is like I was over by some like Capitol building, and there was 2 big machines that were like more difficult to kill. I ended up killing them, but then I ended up finding that Capitol building was like its own side puzzle. And like if I go inside, if I went to the right place, if I used the right tools, I could unlock areas inside that would actually get me to a large chest to give me really good loot. And it's completely optional. I don't have to do it. And she never explained any of it to me. I know she explains the story stuff, like the stories puzzles a lot, and that's a whole different thing. But like this one was a completely side one that you didn't have to touch at all, and she didn't explain anything.
So it's not as bad as like God of War Ragnarok, where they spoil the puzzles.
Forbidden West is worse.
Forbidden West.
Oh, really?
Forbidden West for the main story is just as. I would argue though. Yeah, it's a tricky thing. Like it should be an optional thing in games from now, especially because, like, I mean, games do a lot of testing, and maybe in their testing they found that people were not understanding the concept of the geyser and how that worked, and so they needed someone to explain it to them, because I mean it just depends on the test group, what type of testers they were utilizing. It's such a complex issue, that they're just trying to make sure that it's solvable, right? Make sure that everyone's able to solve it the best they can. I think it should be an option that, like, please give me hints after X amount of time or something like that.
Or as an accessibility feature.
Yeah, totally. Agreed. And I think that's starting to become more prevalent now in games of, potentially that might be an option in the future.
I'm confident there was enough pushback in Horizon and Ragnarok that I think that stuff will be tweaked and get better.
It's something that's easily tweakable.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about a condensed open world, and that's the one of Kamurocho.
You said it. Look, it's official.
It is definitely a condensed open world. I just literally hate everything that happens in it.
You don't want to teach a dominatrix how to dominatrix? Get her confidence back? No,
I don't. I purposely. I was just happening to. Is it one thing that I found profoundly frustrating at the beginning of the game is the reverse of what you were talking about with Breath of the Wild, where they don't give you any waypoints whatsoever. You've just got to try and figure out where you've got to go for the first 3 missions in the first chapter. And because I have no interest in the story whatsoever, I've been skipping all the cutscenes and spamming that A button to get through the text as fast as humanly possible. But what I didn't realise is that you actually need to be paying attention to the text in the first 3 or 4 hours of the game, because it will tell you where you need to go, and it doesn't put a waypoint on your map. So I needed to actually go into the menus and try and figure out the building that I needed to go to based on the map, or the street that I needed to go to based on the map. And that I found profoundly frustrating.
It sounds like you created your own problem, though, by skipping
it sounds like you can fuck off.
I mean, you're not doing your due diligence here. Like, there was no stipulations that you had to pay attention to the story, but you turn the sound off, you skip everything, you don't do any of the side quests.
Oh no! So I just literally before Mrs. McWomble and I went out to go to the opticians, I skipped I skipped a skippable text thing. I skipped a cutscene, which went then into another cutscene, which I skipped, which went into a loading screen, which went into a fight. So I've got no idea why I'm fighting this person. But I don't care. I'm just going to beat the shit out of them with a baseball bat.
We'll do like we'll do a wrap up of Backbone.
Yes, Backbone. Great game.
Which is good, by the way. I really like the beginning of the game. Thronebreaker, and your lovely experience with Yakuza 0.
Oh, we'll have
do it.
postmortems of our bets experience.
The bet thing.
Yeah, like we'll all be together and we'll talk about at the end of the year how the torturous bets went.
Sorry, McWomble, please. We'll need to get back. You need to get some frustrations out. Sorry.
No, what I would say about the open world it is a very small open world, and you can just go off and do random shit like play baseball or go bowling, which, okay, I can understand why people would waste time wanting to go and do those things. The baseball is frustrating. The bowling's quite fun. I did it once because I had to waste time because I needed to wait. Because some arbitrary reason is that I needed to wait a few hours before I could buy a real estate property for no fucking reason. Why can't you just hand me the case of money so that I can go walk round the corner to stand in front of the store that I can buy? Why couldn't I just buy it standing there looking at the map of the location? I had to exit the building to walk around the corner so that you can have a cutscene of me opening a suitcase full of yen that I then had to walk back to the building to then go and do the management thing. It just the mechanics in that game infuriate me. But the open world is confusing because on certain missions, which are monumentally stupid, like going and buying a group of homeless people who you need to bribe with alcohol for information because that isn't offensive at all. One of them wants champagne. So where do you think you can buy champagne from? Oh, it's the discount store that has many random items. Has a 2,000 yen bottle of champagne in it. But none of the other convenience stores would ever think to stock champagne. And certainly not the high-priced foreign import store that definitely doesn't stock champagne. Is the discount store. That's where you go to get your champagne and Camarocho.
That's how it works.
I do appreciate there being enough random world events that I can earn hundreds of thousands of yen from just beating up some bikers, men in black, Yakuza or hooligans. So that's useful. Other than that, I can't think of anything good to say about the game at all.
I would argue that the Yakuza in general reminds me of Grand Theft Auto. Just a smaller Grand Theft Auto game. Because like its navigation
severely limited though, because you can't like interact.
Correct, but like in regards of like I can go play baseball and like I can go bowling, and then like the navigation is like similar to like driving in the streets, except you're running in the streets and there's like street corners.
Oh yeah, and the camera's just awful.
A smaller GTA is why I prefer Sleeping Dogs.
Oh, I love Sleeping Dogs.
Sleeping Dogs is great.
I think what Sleeping Dogs is like saving grace is its combat is just so freaking good that like I will do any mission. I don't care if it's shitty or I don't care about these collectibles, but like the combat is just so fun that I will do it all day long. And like maybe that's a saving grace for an open world game is like if the mechanics are so fun, it doesn't even matter what you're going to go do. As long as the mechanics are fun, then you don't care as much.
The gameplay in that was great.
I'm so disappointed that game turned into Triad Wars, the online-only multiplayer game that was far too ahead of its time.
I really wanted a sequel. I feel so bad we never gonna get it.
Like knowing, like take those devs. I know like that team doesn't exist now, but as far as things have come with Breath of the Wild and Ghost of Tsushima and how people are trying to reinvent what it is to make an open world, Oh man, a Sleeping Dogs 2 could be so good.
Could.
Do you remember the Feng Shui quest where you went to that guy's mansion and you
You
fucked with
broke
all
in
the
and
stuff
moved
in
his
his
stuff
house
around. Yeah.
and to like flip him out? Those are the things that make side quests meaningful. Like I haven't thought about that in years, but I remember doing that quest because
So,
it was so memorable.
but to quote Evan, the thing that he thinks makes side quests meaningful is fucking with other people's stuff.
I guess yeah.
Well,
Uh,
I'd be
all I
careful
wanna
what
do.
you wish for, because it's now. Well, when Sleeping Dogs was in development, it was like already partway through development before Ubisoft acquired it. So Ubisoft didn't really get to put its fingerprints as much on it as it would have, and now it's owned by Ubisoft. So I would fear it would be a Valhalla.
Yeah,
Evan, have
Stefan,
you?
you've been trying to say something for a
Oh
while.
yeah, because I wanted to get Evan's take on this game if he's played it
Why does
I
everyone want Evan's
oh,
take?
because I prefer it over Breath of the Wild. It's just interesting because of how it does open world and collectibles. Have you played Immortals: Phoenix Rising?
No, I have
Um,
not. I know Rafa has talked about. I know he likes his Ubisoft open world
yeah.
games
I
and
have it on my
So
PlayStation 5 right now to like play, because I got it with PlayStation Plus Extra. It's like free.
what I like about it for the open world stuff is when you do the puzzles and the shrines and whatnot, you're always hearing Zeus and the gods talk. So there's always like actual story context to the collectibles and the side quests. And in Zelda, I always feel like, oh, there's not really story to collecting Korok seeds, and
What are you talking about? You get a
so
giant poop. That's all that
I
matters.
don't know.
yeah, 900
But
seeds,
yeah, every time I did
$50.
a collectible or a shrine, there's literally dialogue going on in Immortals, that you're learning about the story and the world, and I really think like something like Breath of the Wild could benefit from that, where there's or open world games in general where the collectibles actually add to the story, and that's never the case typically.
I see what you're saying. It's kind of like how Mitch was talking about how, let's just say there's some main side quest. I like how, and McWomble's right too. He's like, how is there a main side quest? It's an oxymoron. What are you talking about? And you're right, but technically the real estate thing is a main side quest. But Mitch was talking about how he likes meaningful side quests where at the end there's a boss. After
Yeah,
you collect 10 things and then there's a boss and then you get something good out of it.
like
So maybe that is an extension,
Well,
yeah,
not an
because there's
extension, but like an evolution
well,
of
I
that.
also like that like thing of Ghost of Tsushima is like every little side thing you do is meaningful to the player progression, because it's not like just
yeah,
experience points. It's literally like, oh, I'm building more resolve, I'm building more health, or I'm getting a new move, a special move that I can use. Like every
and
little thing is actually contributes, like tech, like what's what's the word, like physically, like it's not an imaginary orifice of points that I can spend on something. It's like it's an actual physical thing I need that I will be getting for the character that is detrimental to the character's progression.
and the with Immortals, like you're getting stuff, and then like so if I do like a sliding puzzle where you know those like 3x3 puzzles where one of the tiles is
Mhm.
missing.
I'm so bad at those.
I
It's
am too, but
my
like
biggest weakness. Yeah.
there's certain things in a game like that where you have to like fill in like a mural of like a certain mythological event, and then you'll learn about the event, but you also get an item. That's actual progression, and, so, and all the things in that game that you're doing like that, be it a shrine or just a collectible, you're getting something, and then you're getting story content too.
Sure. I see what you're saying. So let's just say, like, of course, with the Korok seeds, if you collect enough, you can add inventory space. But what if there's something else added to
Yeah,
that, where you were learning about the Deku tree or the Koroks
yeah.
themselves?
I
They're
don't want
telling you a
them.
bit of their story
Or where
with
the
each.
golden shit comes from.
Or yeah, there you go. But again, like
It
as
comes from the
ridiculous as the carrot on
gods.
the end of that stick is,
Evan, we know
an
where it
extra
comes
carrot
from.
on
It
the end of
tells you
that
in the
stick.
beginning of the Breath
Yeah,
of Tears of the Kingdom. It all comes from the gods.
the
So
closest
yeah.
story content for Korok seeds in Tears of the Kingdom is when two of them can't beat Tank, are separated and you have to get them together. That's
Hey,
like the closest I've
spoilers.
seen.
Hey, spoilers. We ain't spoiling this game for people. Come on now.
It's in the first island.
Well, I'm not done. I never saw this.
Wait,
Spoil-
you've been to the second shrine?
Yeah, but I didn't run into the Korok seeds yet.
You'll find stuff.
Personally, I feel absolutely aggrieved to my very core that was spoiled from the game that I will never play.
It's spoiled for the
I
greatest
feel for you,
game
man.
ever made. How dare you spoil that for somebody? That's probably one of their favorite moments ever in the game, ever.
Can we just agree that Ghost of Tsushima is a fucking brilliant video game?
Yeah, underrated, highly underrated.
We did. That was our game of the year when
It was,
came out,
yes.
right?
We managed to
I know.
convince Mitch.
Yeah, Tomb Raiders was not happy about that, but he was not on the show that day. So
And
Evan
look
did
look where I'm working at now. I've had to tell my coworkers that.
Evan, were you hypercritical on the haiku in that game?
what's that?
Were you hypercritical of the haiku in that game?
The translating the haiku into English doesn't work the way that it doesn't. Like whatever, they did their best.
I'll give a shout out to them. And the game has been out for quite a
pretty
while,
good.
so this is a spoiler, but they should have played it already. So if you don't want the ending spoiled, skip 10 seconds. Love they give you a haiku in the very, very final fight.
Yeah. It all ties. It ties.
I didn't expect that. I was like, that's fucking brilliant. I've been doing this the whole game, and I didn't expect you would do that to me. Thank you.
So I guess everything we've learned is if there's a middle ground between, like, basically what is DLC and your average open world, that Ghost of Tsushima has found kind of a midway point between those things to keep people satisfied. They just did it right, you know. They did a really good job because it's not that small. It's quite a big game. It's like 30 hours, and all the games that I had referred to, like Lost Legacy and Frozen Wilds, and that they're 7, 8, maybe 10 hours max.
Yeah, I preferred Lost Legacy to 4 just because of the size.
I think most people, not most people, a lot of people consider Lost Legacy one of the best in the series because of how condensed it is. You know, it's got that semi-open area.
It's my personal favorite because I like the characters more.
Yeah, that's usually the number one reason that people say that is like they like the two characters. The open world is not as much. They're the thing that they are drawn to because if you look at it mechanically, it's your basic average open world game. It's just you don't get you. It's like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like Breath of the Wild. Zelda's never had an open world before. This is so new. This is so fresh, and then therefore people love it so much.
I think it's the open world in that though is like exactly what it needs to be. Some games I think that they just go too big, and it's not really.
Oh, the size is fine.
The game.
Yeah, the size.
Yeah.
It's not too big for what it needs to be. Correct. Yeah.
That's what she said.
Ooh, but it was also smart with they kept it linear, and then they opened it up.
Man, now you're
No, I'm sorry. You needed to say linear.
He's thinking of George W. Bush right now. With strategery and nuclear.
Wait, where's my shoe to throw at him? Hold on.
So they open it up for the chapter 3, and then they squeeze it back down and do your regular Uncharted deal. And I like that. And they experimented with that in Last of Us 2 with
they did
Seattle.
that in 4 already. I mean, that was 4.
Kind of, but I don't know. It seemed way more open. Like you're talking about Madagascar, right?
Yeah, I mean, technically, like the difference was you had objectives you had to complete, whereas Madagascar, it was just open areas you could explore, but they weren't like critical to complete these 3 areas before you can move on. Whereas that's what Lost Legacy was.
So
I like that stuff, but again, this is talking about how open worlds will throw this giant world at you, and it's overwhelming. Whereas with even in Madagascar or India, it's linear, and then it opens up a little bit, and then it goes back into the main story. It doesn't give you too much to do, and I think that's one of the main kind of takeaways from this is just trim the fat, condense.
Yeah,
personally, I wouldn't describe those as open world. It never even occurred to me to consider
It's
those areas being
semi-open world, I guess.
You are
say.
you are right. Yeah, they're
But-
not open worlds in the definition that we usually refer to it.
I will say it Golden Abyss and like the stuff they used for like collectibles, kind of transferred to 4 and Lost Legacy because like you're taking photos, or you're it kind of felt like I think it was 4 that added the conversations as like collectibles. Like, you could find places to talk to the characters, and there were, I think there were photos, but in Golden Abyss you could do like rubbings, and environment and storytelling with what Uncharted did. I felt like that sort of stuff is way more meaningful in open world, where you're actually learning about the world and the story, and like just normal collectibles like Korok seeds don't really do it for me.
Sure.
I think my final like thing about open world games where it's like maybe this is what always hinders me is in open world games most of the time you lose as a player you lose that agency to like do what you're supposed to do. Like most of these it's the end of the world, right? Like the world is going to end, blah blah blah, but I gotta go get those Korok seeds. I gotta go save Princess Zelda, but I got time for Korok seeds.
That's why it's the one criticism I have of Mass Effect 3. It's meant to be a time limited thing. Oh, Shepard needs to do this, or otherwise Earth gets destroyed. But you can fuck off for 60 hours and do all the side content.
And you're encouraged to because you got to build up your army, right? But yeah, no, that's like the only thing is, and I think Ghost of Tsushima kind of was able to. I think it was able to conquer that a little bit because, yeah, your uncle was captured, but like you have to get recruitment to be able to like get the army together, and also you got to build yourself back up again to like make yourself strong enough to like go do that battle. And so I don't think I ever felt like I lost the agency as the player because I always knew everything was making me stronger, which was helping me to be able to accomplish my goal, which is also you had to get rid of the Mongols from the area, which actually made more sense in context compared to like other games where it's like destroy this enemy base. It's more like these people invaded your country, like you go kill them and get rid of them, right? Like makes more sense. So like I think just it tied better.
You tackle the four main side quests.
Yeah.
Of where
totally
that what rolls back into they end up those 4 characters if you help them. Well, they do it anyways, but they help you in the final battle. It like the Ishikawa sensei, the archer, and the Buddhist monk, and all those characters, and those are all really really fun stories as well, and it ties back into the end of the game.
And they continue through each area, which is cool.
Yeah.
How does that compare to like how? Because I haven't beaten it or played it much, but like if you're getting their help in the last fight, how does that compare to like Breath of the Wild, where you're getting the 4 heroes to help you with the divine beast in the last fight?
It's not like you're getting a buff from doing it. You're just fleshing out more of the story.
Yeah.
But I would say
good.
it is worthwhile doing.
Yeah. And like the difference is the stories of the 4 like leaders in Breath of the Wild are so short. You don't know a lot about them. They're just like these cool people you get to hang out with. Whereas like Ghost of Tsushima, these are fleshed out characters that have complex stories, that have complex situations, which lead to interesting scenarios you never imagine you get into. And then when they decide to help you for the final fight, it's a little more meaning because of some of the characters' journey that they've gone through. You're like, oh, even through all that, you're still going to support me, and I'm grateful for it.
And their motivations impact on how you play.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily directly impact how you would go about interacting with the world, but their motivations impact how the story progresses, which therefore impacts how the story progresses further down the line. So it's definitely worth completing all of the optional story quests. with those characters. I think trying to wrap this up in some sort of way, shape, or form. When it comes to open worlds, I think don't fall into the trap of thinking bigger is better. I think with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Ubisoft have realised that by wanting to go away from the recent format of AC games and move back towards the first one. Don't fall into the trap of, if you want people to progress through the story, put so much shit in the first area that they won't leave for hours and hours and hours. Or put that there, but make it purposeful. So I felt like Stefan and I were agreeing. It took me absolutely ages in Zero Dawn to get to Midas City.
And that's when the story started for me.
Yeah.
And it's...
I didn't feel bad because of that, because I enjoyed all the stuff that I was doing around it. And then I think the other thing is make the world feel like the world. I know that sounds really
abstract.
Yeah. But Ghost of Tsushima does that brilliantly. As much as I despise the entire game, Yakuza 0 makes Kamurocho feel like a seedy for any of our audio listeners, Evan's just gone back and touched where he wrote Keith McWomble loves Yakuza on his chalkboard behind him.
He said one good thing about it. I'll take that for the rest of my life. That's all I need.
He'll hold that to your. He'll hang that on your grave. Keith loves Yakuza's open world.
It's gone from a 0 out of 10 to a 1 out of 10. Well done.
I thought you were going to say 0.25, but I'll take 1.
Hey, 1 is a bonus, man.
Yeah, the combat's okay. The more I play the combat, the less I'm actually enjoying it.
Hey, that's a Zelda 10 right there.
So I think the main things are that the abstract one of make the world feel like the world. So Ghost of Tsushima is a brilliant example. Arkham Knight is a good example. I would say Spider-Man is a brilliant example. I haven't played Miles Morales, but judging by the pedigree of Spider-Man, I would assume that that's got the same kind of feel about
it does
the world that you're in. So make people feel, the people who you put in as background characters and NPCs, make them feel like they belong.
Yeah, it needs to be fully realized.
Yeah. I felt like some of that in Red Dead Redemption 2, but it was too big. It was too bloated, and there wasn't enough going on in between the missions to actually keep me invested. That suffered from a bit of what you were talking about earlier, Mitch, is you could go somewhere, there'd be nothing going on, and then 18 hours later, you'd get a side quest to go back to this place, and suddenly it's full of outlaws.
I mean, I would even argue it's similar to Breath of the Wild, where, yeah, Evan, it's really satisfying that I can click on all those things by looking them in the distance, but when I travel between one shrine to the other, there is nothing interesting. It is a barren wasteland.
I disagree with that.
I think you just stabbed Evan in the heart.
Dude, even today, like, I wanted to go somewhere. It took me ages to get there because I'm like, oh, what's that over there? What's that over there? What's that?
You're talking about Tears of the Kingdom. I'm talking about Breath of the Wild.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that Tears of the Kingdom does that better?
I don't know. I haven't played enough to say it. I'm only going what I know. So like Breath of the Wild, was my problem. Was like,
oh, so you're not talking about when Link dies at the end? I'm just kidding.
Is it, to
be fair to Mitch, when I was playing earlier, it's not really a spoil. All that was in between two shrines was a goblin tower. That's it.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah, that's not much.
Can I just mention one semi-open world hub type thing that we've not mentioned? Redfall. That's a semi-open world video game.
You enjoying that Game Pass there, Keith? Got that nice first party title on your Game Pass to play.
But if it weren't for Game Pass, I would have had to have bought Yakuza 0. In which case, if I had to actually spend my own money on the game, there is no way I would have ever made that trade.
Sure. Yeah, I actually, you know what? That's maybe I should be praising Game Pass, because without it, we wouldn't have this horrible nightmare of this betting episode that we did, which was my idea, and we're all suffering through it together, I guess.
I haven't started my suffering yet. We'll see once Perkoff
I
starts how much suffering I gotta do.
I haven't started the farming game yet.
What game are you playing?
Well, I have to do the card one, the Gwent, or whatever. But I also you gave me like everyday life or something like that.
Oh, Various Day Life.
Yeah. So thanks.
God, just absolute butchering of the English language. That's what I'm trying to fight back against, but Japan's too powerful.
And on that
Fighting a
note,
losing battle. The episode, whatever we were talking about, secretly became this giant talk about how great the Order 1886 was.